City Council, and we serve on a voluntary basis without compensation. Our procedure for conducting business is this. The petitioner will, for each item, will be asked to come forward, state your name for the record, and present your request. The board will ask any questions they have. Then anyone wishing to speak to the proposal will be asked to come forward and voice their opinions. If there are sides on an issue, each side will have 10 minutes to speak. Once your request is heard, the board's decision is rendered and you may leave the meeting. However, if you have questions for staff, please wait until after the meeting is over or ask them if you may contact them at the office the next day. Once public testimony and discussion for a particular item is concluded, the members of the board will deliberate and render a decision. Members with a personal or financial interest in any request are required to recuse themselves from voting. All decisions by the Architecture Review Board are final. Any aggrieved parties may appeal a decision of the board to the City Council within 15 days for procedural issues. If your request is denied by the board, petitioners may appeal the board's decision to the circuit court within 30 days of the meeting. We have, how many people present? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We have nearly a full house. It takes 5 votes to pass a motion, so if you needed those other 2 people in order to pass, you can have your request delayed. We have 2 new members of the board today. Is Hillary Morgan? She said she was coming and she's not here yet. She has that long drive, does she not, from Goodwin, Wilson, Kaywood?
Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't at the office.
And we have Mr. Jake Johnson. Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Brown. We have Katie Williams, who's the vice chair, Cedric Campbell, Mr. John Fauci, Mr. John Hayden, and Jeremy Kelly. All right. The first person on the agenda is Daniel Castillo, 1028 South Hull Street, Garden District. Daniel forgot to come.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Number 2 on the agenda tonight, asked to be moved to the end of the agenda because he has to stay here the whole time anyway. John Hayden will go last. Joyce Stewart, Old Cloverdale, 822 Cloverdale Road.
Hey, we're requesting an in-ground swimming pool.
To the point. Are we invited?
Yes.
And it's going within your rear yard privacy fence that you already have put up, so there's no change required there.
No.
And it's on Maston Lane.
No, we're on Cloverdale
that's
Road.
John Hayden.
No, that's my fence.
We're Cloverdale Road.
I got you. I see it now.
I'd like a pool, but that's for another day.
We could have a less formal setting for the Architecture Review Board.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any questions from the board? For Ms. Stewart?
Yes, Ms. Stewart, just to confirm, there are no trees being removed for the placement of the pool,
trees
right?
being removed.
Okay.
Are there any comments from the audience? Darby Forrester?
Darby Forrester, representing the Old Cloverdale Association. We have no objection.
All right. Is there any further discussion from the board? May I have a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. Jay Robertson, 670 Cloverdale Road.
My name is Jay Robertson. I'm requesting to have a pine tree removed in my front yard. The reason for this is when we moved into the house, it has what I call a historic roof, but I think an original roof with concrete tiles that adds a lot of character to the house. And the tree that's hanging over, when we first moved into the house, we spent a good bit of money to have it restored, and the inspector told us it was in good condition, just needed a little care. That was in the summertime when we moved in the house. Since then, we've had the house flood, well, the ceiling flood in 3 different times, causing drywall damage, causing paint damage, one time an electrical damage. And every time that happened, the roofer told us that the concrete tiles are fine, but if there's any backflowing water whatsoever, it'll flood into the house. And so I feel like we're to a point where the pine tree and the roof will not survive together. Now, the house did have a history of water damage before, but like I said, he said that was just from something a long time ago and everything was corrected. But it wasn't until once we started living in there that we realized the pine straw and I guess the squirrels the pines falling down on the roof kind of cluttered everything up. So what we would like to do is remove the tree and then, having talked to Russell Stringer, replace 2 new pine trees away from the house in locations that he said he would prefer us to put them closer to the street.
All right. Any questions from the board?
This is an item that came before us before, if I remember
sorry.
right. You
Yes.
came before us to the house, and it as well as the tree, both make the house a nice setting. I just hate to see that nice pine tree, which is part of the character of the neighborhood, be removed. And I see the pictures and recognize the damage. Is all of the damage you're saying that's shown here pictures of what has happened since
Correct.
you've moved in? So in July, none of this existed.
None of it did. 3 times in 6 months. And in some of those pictures, you actually, to show, you see the water dripping from the window panes in there. And before we moved in, there was a receipt from professional cleaners that we had coming out cleaning, and they charged us extra for the pine straw removal. And,
Because it sounds like from the report that the pine straw had built up over a period of time. And
it had
and
been. That part
I
was
can
kind
see
of
that being
caked.
the issue.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's part of it that was just kind of caked on to the concrete tile. And so for cosmetic reasons, we cleaned that up. But I guess it was the new pine straw that fell on, or the pine cones, or whatever it is. They call it the backflow in the water. Yeah, those are the pictures right there where you actually see water dripping from the ceiling. So it's an active problem.
It's just if it's going to replace, I think it's okay. Is there any comment from the audience?
Darby Forster with the Old Cloverdale Association. I was looking through this, and the previous owner has come before y'all wanted to remember, put the whole backside as metal roof and then use those tiles to fix the front. And that was turned down, and then I think he ended up selling it. But if you look in what the inspector said, he's got on here on the roof on 4F that it needs attention, there are broken tiles, that the flashing is sealed with concrete, which is going to have to be maintained. And I think we've already determined that there are no concrete tiles that can be used for replacement purposes anywhere on the entire earth. So when this roof goes, it's going to have to be replaced with something else. I have no idea how much life this roof has, but if it already has broken tiles and they're not replaceable ones, then, I hate to cut down a healthy tree and then find out in 6 months that the whole roof has to be replaced. But
Well, when I get up there every 2 weeks to clean the pine straw out, it doesn't flood anymore.
Hal Leary did this inspection, right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Hal Leary, he did this inspection, right?
I'm sorry.
Can you, there you go.
My apologies. Hal Leary did this inspection, right?
Correct.
Okay, this was prior to you.
This was about a month before us moving in.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if you remember, but August, September, we went through not like right now, we went through a dry spell where it didn't rain for probably about 2 months. And comic relief, I added it was halftime of the LSU Auburn game where it started flooding, and that was okay as an Auburn fan to walk away from that. But then it happened once then, and then somewhere around the new year, it happened a second time. This time it was in the center of the house, which caused a little electrical issue. And then probably a lot of roofs flooded the past couple of weeks, but about 2 weeks ago, we had another place. And every time you have to get up there and crawl up there and clean it out, I'm not going to pay somebody to get up there every 2 weeks. I mean, it's me getting up there and doing it. And I just don't think most roofs should be cleaned every 2 weeks.
All right. Is there any further discussion by the board? If so, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'm sympathetic to the issues that the residents having with leaking, and I can see maybe deferred maintenance of the pine straw over the years have caused a problem. I just don't know that at this time. I feel like removing the tree is the solution. That's just my opinion. Like I say, both the roof and the tree are important elements in my opinion.
I agree.
I just have a hard time with removing that tree. My motion is at this time to deny the request, let the homeowner work with the roofer he's had it clean. Let's see if any of that would solve the problem before we chop down a nice healthy tree.
You need to be sure that you state a reason for the denial.
Because of the character that the tree brings to the house, to the resident.
May I have a second?
I'm going to second that.
All in favor? All opposed? Well, one of us who voted opposed needs to write a motion then.
Yeah. And in full disclosure, Hillary says she's on her way, so I don't know if he maybe want to wait until she's here. That may make it better. I don't know. She just texted and said she's here.
Are you trying to draw your supporters in?
No, I hope she would be against me.
I need 5 votes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
was
have
2-5.
I have a
5.
question. Is it the tree in question isn't the straight tree in the front, but it's the one sort of leaning towards your house? Is
Yeah, the
that
tree in
correct?
front is fine. I've lived in Cloverdale almost my whole life, 45 years. I've never asked to have a tree taken down. The one that's more awkward in the front, I'm fine with that. That's fine. I love pine trees. But this
So-
one's actually hanging over top of the house.
So to be clear, it's not the one like smack dab by your front and
No,
it's pretty
no.
prominent. It's the one that's in the
It's the one off to the
plant bed
side and some
to
bushes-
the right, and
to
it
the-
looks
and the
like
bushes
it's
over there on
leaning
the side.
fairly heavily towards your house, even though it may be healthy.
It has a curve in it, sort of.
I mean,
Could you go to picture 4D? I think it shows,
yeah, I think this one kind of shows you that kind of healthy curve towards your house. You know, you're not asking for both trees. I mean, they're relatively close, and that you're wanting to save the one tree closer, but just get rid of the tree to the right. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then place 2 new pine trees by the street.
You know, I guess I'm sort of being Solomon and saying I think it's okay to take that tree down, put in a tree that's in a better location for your house, and give the poor man some you know, so he doesn't have to have an umbrella inside his house. You know.
I'd appreciate that.
Or get on a ladder.
If we're trying to save the roof, but we're going through this monsoon season, I mean, it's a catch-22 in some respects. So, while it is sad to always see a tree go, if you're going to replace it in kind and work with the urban forester for a location that's better suited to you in the neighborhood, and it saves the integrity of the house, I say to approve it as submitted.
I will second that motion.
All right, we have a new motion to remove the tree and replace it with 2 new trees as submitted by the owner. All in favor? All opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, I miscounted. I thought it was 4-2 this first time, so I was trying to say, hey, he may get another vote.
All right. Senator Colson, 537 Cloverdale Road.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sina Colson. I'm requesting permission to remove a pecan tree that currently sits about less than 5 feet from my house. It's, as you probably can tell from the pictures, it's been pruned in such a way that it angles all towards one side, which currently hangs over my carport and drops pecans onto the car, so I cannot utilize my carport as it stands. And it also interferes with the fence, so I would like permission to take it down.
So this is, you're in the far right-hand unit closest to the house that remains there on that block of the street.
I'm in the house with the white car.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and the tree that hangs over this carport. That angle is hard to see, but the picture on the right is from the street.
Okay. Is there any discussion at this point from the board?
I have a few comments. Ms. Colson, if I'm reading it right, there has not been a replacement. As you can tell, I may not vote for it, but I'm
I
just
don't
asking.
at the time I filled out the application, our HOA is very new. In fact, it just formed this month. And so at the time I filled out the application, I figured it would be, nice of me to kind of ask them if what plans I had to replace it. I am fully open to replacing it with anything that's not nut bearing and hanging over my carport.
So if a replacement was planned, where would it go and what kind? Is that, would your plan be to work with Mr.
A maple would be
Urban
nice.
Forester or?
Yeah, I mean, I would work with the forester for suggestions. I mean, a maple, a dogwood, anything that's pleasing to the eye. As you can tell, this pecan tree has kind of lost its aesthetic appeal.
Mr. String, it was hard riding by looking at this one to see what the backyard looks like, but what's the options of a replacement? Where would it go and what species are you thinking?
It would need
If
to
I'm
be-
putting you on the spot, you can say, hey, I don't know right now.
I can't give you any specifics. I can tell you I can squeeze a tree in a tight place.
One that doesn't drop nuts every.
Yeah, we won't pick out one that drops pecans. And just for the record, I have nothing good to say about the aesthetics of this particular tree.
You have nothing good to say about what?
The aesthetics of this tree.
It's ugly.
He doesn't like this pecan tree.
Well, it is
It's
kind of-
healthy and that's about it.
I find it sort of large and scary myself.
Yes,
I can't conceive that it's lived this long after having all that construction right next to it.
I would agree.
Any comments from the audience?
Darby Forest Road Cloverdale Association. As you know, our policy is not to take down healthy trees. However, if this one is removed, I'd like to see it replaced with some type of a canopy tree. Since that is a canopy tree, since that's a canopy tree, another canopy tree.
Well, a canopy tree that's had a chance to adapt to its surroundings is bound to do a little better than a canopy tree that's had its whole,
Been whacked
Been
up.
invaded by construction.
yes.
Yeah.
Any other discussion from the board?
I will say someone did a good job of trying to keep some trees in the area.
They certainly
When they
did.
put the house in, and I can appreciate that. And I also understand that pecan trees drop limbs and nuts and everything else, and they can be a nuisance. And so just to say that this scenario is different from the last one, in my opinion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve as submitted.
A second?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Well, excuse me.
What?
One clarification, is that to work with urban forester?
Yes,
on
I'm
planting
sorry,
I'm
yes.
sorry, thank you. Yeah, I will amend the motion to say I approve as submitted, and would ask that you work with the urban forester and the HOA about a replacement tree.
Okay, no problem.
Can we vote again, please, with that revised? I guess we have to have a second on it too, don't we? A new second?
Second.
All right, now, all in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
James Rawson, 1817 Lockerbie.
I am representing the owner of this home who lives in Dallas, and this is not a good picture because these are two magnolias in front of the home, but on the driveway to the left is, I don't know that these are the photos that I produced. There you go. And that's not a good photo, I apologize. But that is the photo. This tree is on the driveway, and she was very dissatisfied with the nuts falling on the cars and the danger to the driveway, and just was adamant that it be removed. We are rehabbing the entire yard, putting in multiple trees, mostly Japanese maples. But we could put a larger canopy tree in, like a sycamore or something like that. That would, she might not love a sycamore, but I might recommend a black gum. It's not as large, but not as messy. So the messiness is the major problem for her, is the dropping of the limbs and the pecans on the cars.
The chairman of the board would like to go on record in saying that she does not find pecans dropping on your driveway to be a reasonable excuse to take out a tree. You're going to have to come up with something else. I don't like bird droppings on my car either, but I'm not recommending that we take out all the birds.
She just wants to, she wants to have a very lush environment in her front yard. She doesn't like that pecan tree. She seems to be willing to spare no expense in what tree she would put in if recommendations were made.
All right.
Is it a pecan tree? Because it says a carya tree on
It is. Just a genus of pecan trees. Scientific names they taught me 40 years ago in school.
the... Okay.
A species of pecan, I knew there were more than one species. I grew up with pecan trees, living and parking underneath them in my entire life, or my youth. So.
They do throw down limbs all the time.
I think Mr. Stringer described them as self-pruning. And since I have one in my backyard, I can attest that that is true. However, trees are messy. I'm just not sure if that's a good enough reason to take a healthy one down.
Which tree is it? For clarification.
Mr. Stringer, what do you feel about this situation?
This particular pecan tree, unlike many of its neighbors in the neighborhood, actually has good form. It's got a single leader that's structurally sound. Most pecans that we see that break apart are they got 4 or 5 trunks and they pull against you. This one's got a single stem. I don't consider it a hazard. I wouldn't park under it because it's going to drop a small branch or two. But I don't know. It's got enough form. If it were in my yard, I'd be keeping it. I wouldn't worry about it. And I've got some in my yard that aren't this good. So
is there any?
I can speak to the aesthetics of this one. This isn't like the one we looked at previously, with the 2 stubs hanging over the carport. this actually has a full canopy.
Well, it also appears that this driveway leads to the backyard with a garage, is that right?
That's true.
Wouldn't that be the better place to park rather than park in the driveway where a tree might drop a pecan? Or I guarantee birds are going to light in that tree and eat those things up, and then that'll be fun. I've lived through that a lot too. But seems like there's plenty of room to park other than underneath the pecan tree.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone from the audience have a comment on this proposed project?
Darby Forest Road Cloverdale Association. Here's hoping the third time is the charm. We don't feel it should come down. I mean, it's toward the end of the driveway. No one's going to park there. They're going to park in the back. And I probably have to wash my car twice a week when the sap starts dropping from my oak tree. So.
Cedars will do that too.
Is there any further discussion from the board? And then may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the request based on the fact the tree is healthy. I think it's an integral part of the yard, and it's for the reasons given to taking it down. It's obvious to me there are plenty of places to park other than underneath this pecan tree.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, sorry. All right. Chase Caraway. Approval for a new driveway at the property at 3353 and 3357 Montezuma Road.
That's right. This is a duplex, and there's a driveway on one side. It's just the two ribbons of concrete. On the other side, I guess they had just gravelled and were just pulling across the curb. In the past, you could see it in the aerial, the Google picture, but I just want to do a proper curb cut and do the two ribbon driveway just to match the other side.
Seldom has anyone proposed a more appropriate project.
Well, thank you.
Any further comments from the board? I kind of cut that off, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I think you're trying to influence us.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, not having it delineated has led people, I see, to driving on the yard and parking on the yard. Things not conducive to a good neighborhood environment.
So is the driveway that's shown in the picture not part of the property?
Well, this is the street view, so this was a while back. It's completely grown over now, the left side here. And that's actually not even a curb cut. You can't tell the old curbs are just pushed down so far from people driving over them. So it appears to be a driveway, but it's really, in fact, there is something brick there, but I have not even seen that until I saw this picture. It's so grown over right now. So when I get into it, there may be a brick driveway there, but I don't think so.
All right.
Madam Chair, are you saying if you drive over your front yard enough, it would be okay to put another driveway in? I'm just asking. I'm just curious.
The chair chooses not to answer. Are there any comments from the board? From the audience? I don't want any more comments from the board.
Charlie's not here, so apparently not.
All right. So you're getting by today. May I have a motion on this if there's no further discussion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Thank you. Go and improve your property.
Thank you. I have another one too, though.
Oh, sure. Okay.
This one might not be as easy.
You have two in a row.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, 516 Thorn Place in Old Cloverdale.
So this one.
Tree removal.
I'm glad somebody added a picture because I just realized that the pictures that I sent didn't actually have the tree. So right now, there's a parking pad on the right side that's just right off the street. And what I'm wanting to do is make that into a circular driveway. That did not scan good. There's two big trees right there by the street, and then two crepe myrtles behind them that I'd like to put inside the circle, and the brick walk runs in between them. You can't see anything in that picture, can you? I've got a printout if you'd like to look at it, but that was just kind of an example of what I was wanting to do because the sidewalk comes in the middle and it has the gravel driveway.
The picture doesn't show me anything really.
I think picture 8A might be the best one to look at for right now.
I have a copy.
That,
In 8C, I can kind of tell in 8C what he's wanting to do.
well, there are two pictures on 8A, one at the top, one at the bottom.
That's helpful.
Yeah, that was, I mean, we had the darkness, but yeah, I got understood it.
I think it's a scan of a scan. It just,
Chase, is that white there? Is that the parking pad you're talking about?
right.
On the
that's
top photo?
Yeah, that's the apron, and then it's a
Okay.
gravel parking pad there between that and that cedar tree.
And that cedar tree is the one prominently in the front yard right there?
Right there.
Okay.
Comments from the board? Any further comments from the board? Clarifications?
Working along with Russell String over the years, he's taught me to appreciate trees and try to do everything I can to preserve them. Adding this circular drive appears to me that it would be have negative impact on the trees. Mr. Stringer, can you give me your thoughts on that?
Yes, sir, I can, and I don't mind being forthright with that. We approved a driveway that wound around in between some trees on Thorn Place, and we discussed the negative impact it would have on that, and the owner promised that it would not. 2 years later, every tree that driveway passed was dead. We had another circular driveway go in, corner of Cloverdale and Felder, that big monster oak tree beside the house. The lady that redid the house, then sold the house. The owners purchased the house because of the big tree with the circular driveway around it. A year and a half later, the city had to remove that one. And that new owner was not very happy with me. We discussed the negative impact then. Driveways around existing trees are a very bad idea if you're trying to retain the trees. So anytime you're looking at a driveway that comes close to a tree, look at it as a tree removal as well. So,
Why does a gravel driveway affect a tree? I didn't know that. I could see digging it up and putting in concrete. I'm just asking.
it's the traffic on
Compression.
a root system.
Okay.
Because in a tree's root system, and I don't mean to be
No, I
belittling
would-
your
I would hate
project.
to
This
lose
is
the rest of
an
those
issue
trees.
that
I
people
mean-
like me just get tired of seeing all the time. But a tree's root system that feeds the tree is within the first 18 inches of soil. So when people say, well, I didn't trench very deep, well, you don't have to kill a tree. The only time that driveways don't seem to affect trees is where you're redoing an existing driveway and that tree grew up already, dealing with it being there and avoiding it. So
So the
That's-
concern would be,
that's my rant on driveways and trees.
even if we took out that tree, the concern would be for the other trees
Yes.
that I was going in between
Yes,
too.
every one that driveway passes by, because there hadn't been one there before. I hope y'all feel educated now, because that's part of my job as well, is to educate people about what happens.
Well, I
with-
figure driving over the root system of a tree with a several thousand-pound vehicle several times a day or twice a day or a few times, it probably was not good. But
Well, I don't like that. I mean, I think it's a very suburban notion to park your cars in front of your house. And I don't think that's appropriate in a historic neighborhood. That's just my design evaluation of this.
Can I propose an alternative? If, and I didn't measure this even though Christy told me to have a backup plan. I should have. I have a backup plan in my head, but I didn't go measure it. If I could fit between the property line and the existing cedar tree, a single driveway, and then turn off behind the cedar tree for like a 2-car pad and put boxwoods on 2 sides of that.
I would ask that you do a sketch or something showing, I want to know exactly where you're going to park those cars. And I need
We have gotten ourselves into trouble before.
And
can we use the sketch that I have?
well,
I would say
what we have before
your
us
best chance is going to be to do it right and not try to push it.
Yeah, what we have before us tonight is a circular drive, Chase, and so, I mean, certainly, depending on how this goes, if you want to submit something for next month, that'd be fine. We'd be glad to consider it, but I think Ms. Forrester may have something she'd like to
Darby,
say.
did I not call on you?
Not yet.
No,
I think
I'm
Darby
sorry.
just needs to stay up there for now.
That's her way of getting you to call her.
Well, there's actually a ton
She's
of
the hardest
yard
working
over
person
here on the side.
at the architecture review board meeting.
That's right.
It comes to fence, but it's
Yes.
just like
Put her on a salary like us, maybe that.
Ex officio.
This is only, on this side of the house is only like 10 feet. This is like 20, 25 feet. So I think if we're trying to not
No,
park in front.
my thing was like to park it on the other side, to do the driveway on the other side. Or if you go to 8A, but I think you said there's not gonna be enough room.
Well, and there's also an oak tree.
Yeah, there is another tree.
Yeah, but, no,
Right on the
but,
very left of that picture is another oak tree too.
yeah, but it's a little skinny tiny thing, isn't it?
It's pretty good.
Well, if you want to take out the oak tree or the cedar,
Skinny
I
tiny
think the
thing.
cedar is more, I would rather keep the cedar than that oak tree.
Well, rather than try to figure out an alternative tonight, Darby, what's the association's feeling on the submitted plan to cut down the cedar and put in the
No to
circular?
the cedar and no to the circular driveway. And the picture that was in there as an example was done prior to historic designation.
Let the petitioner know I'm available for consultation on site if you want to look at where to place your driveway on the ground.
Thank you.
I'm very good at doing that, so call me.
Mr. Carraway, would you like for us to carry this over while you consult with the urban forester and figure out a better plan? That would be great. All right, let's do that. We don't have to vote against it or anything.
Were you trying to save him?
Could you make a motion to that effect so you've taken some sort of
I will
action?
make a motion to table this to the next meeting while he has a chance to review it with the urban forester.
Second.
All in favor of that? All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Michelle Carter, request for an after-the-fact window replacement for the property listed at 1851 Grand Street.
Hi. I apologize, first off. I have seen the windows changed out like the windows I have around the neighborhood and had painted my house without coming in front of this board in the past because I've lived there 10 years. So I had no idea that I needed to come for windows. I thought this was like for additions and that type thing because I've never had, most of the work I've had done was in my house or structurally. I had the electrical redone, that kind of stuff that y'all don't really care about. So what I would like to do, if possible, I have 2 things I'd like to potentially bring in front of you guys, is to allow me to change out the windows like you see in the photo, not that photo, but the other photo where it was partially done there, to change them out to be like those. Or if those are not okay on the front, to move those to the back and put them on my bedroom and the windows in the back. Here's what I'm having a problem with my windows. My windows are so old that they are just starting to break. The panes are starting to break, and I'm constantly replacing panes. Not only that, I have a large dog that I got from the Humane Shelter that is an escape artist. And he has busted through. The reason we changed out the windows in the first place is because he keeps busting through the windows. Even though I've changed them out, I've had Brian Aspinwall come out and fix the window twice already in the front, that side window there, where he tries to bust through. So what I tried to do was get double panes where he couldn't bust through that still looked nice on the house, obvious. I mean, I was trying for nice on the house. But if not only that, the windows won't open. The old windows will not open. So they're almost a fire hazard upstairs. So that was the reason why I think there should be a picture that I sent in. There's a small window upstairs that has a half moon over the top. And what I was going to put there was just a single square. And it's behind those crepe myrtles up there in the back. You can't see it at all from the street. Yes, absolutely. And it's just a single square.
Is this the photo you're talking about, Michelle? Yeah. Okay, we got this tonight.
So what I was looking to do was put a window in there with a crank on it, so that my daughter lives up there, so that if it caught on fire, she could crank the window open and jump out the window. Because right now it won't open, and in order to get out, she has to break the window.
Would it look the same with the crank, or?
You can't see the crank from the outside.
No, would the window look the same?
The window would just be a solid glass instead of
I think
having
you're
the
saying instead of
crisscross.
it being a double hung window, it'll turn into a casement window that cranks out. Would that be correct? No?
No, it's a fixed window now, and she's
Oh,
gonna
it's
make it a
fixed.
double.
Yeah, it's just one single glass pane.
Okay, and then would you make it a casement window that cranks out?
And yeah, that cranks out so that it would open.
Turning it to a casement window.
Right, sorry, yes, I didn't know what that was called, so, but yeah. But those are the two options I wanted to bring forward, was to go ahead and leave them, as the solid pane in the front. But if that didn't go, if the board wasn't happy with that, then I'm willing to move, put the old windows back up, except for the one that's always breaking, and get that one and put a new one there, not a new one, but one of the salvaged ones that is exactly like that one from the back, and then move those other solid panes into the back. I don't know what happened, but the old owner had boarded up on the inside 2 windows from the inside of the bedroom. So I can't get to the windows, so what I was going to do is actually open that back up and put those two of the windows there, and then put 2 of the windows on the other corner.
So, just so I'm clear,
What's
you're
that?
planning to put 5 of the vinyl windows, 1x1s on the back, and then put the 6x6s back. So at the end, on the back of the house, you will have the windows on the back will not all look like the picture on 6C.
The windows on the back would not look like the windows on the front. Right. Unless I could leave those there.
Unless you can leave the
Unless I
one
can
over
change out all of the windows
and make them all look like that.
and make them all look like that, right?
Okay.
In my opinion, the 6x6 window is the added attraction to this kind of
Right.
Yeah.
cottage style, and the 1x1 really makes it look a little
Not the
less
same.
bland. It looks a little bland.
Yeah.
And I actually, I can go either. I mean, I'm with you on that. I have one other option I wanted to bring out here is have the windows on the back be this, and then I have 3 single windows, and there's a picture of that too, I believe, that is in my dining room. They're just single pane. It's basically like a bay, and I'd maybe put those windows in the bay as a bay window potentially. I'm just trying not to lose the $3,200 that I paid on the windows already. So, that bay is just 3 single windows right above where that, right behind where that crepe myrtle is on the side, next to the door area.
May I ask where the windows were purchased from?
They came from Window World.
Okay, can they install, have you talked to them about installing fake bars on the
I
front to
haven't,
make it?
but I will if, I hadn't come in front of you. I wanted to come in front of you guys before I did anything else, obviously, to find out what was possible and what wasn't.
I'm not sure if the board would be open to that, but that might be an idea to leave the existing windows and apply mutton bars to the front of the windows.
Well, according to the memo that Chrissy sent to us, apparently part of the problem is there was a mess up at the city and they issued a permit. And of course, that's not your fault, concerning the vinyl windows. So what I've looked at and thought about is the only thing that I'm seeing on the request is to remove the vinyl from the front of the house and put it in the back, and then you would take existing windows, I guess, in the back and put them in the front.
The ones that are good in the back, because like I said, I'm having trouble with the others that are not right. Yep.
I understand. Old houses, I got one. Windows
Yep.
over decades are gonna do weird things.
Yep, and the one upstairs cracks all the time.
And I don't know if we've ever approved this kind of vinyl window, but I'm thinking that since it was not any fault of the homeowner.
Well, other than 2 approvals are required. She needs COA from this board. She knows she's in Cloverdale, and made an assumption, and the building department erroneously issued a building permit. The rails and stiles on the vinyl windows are very narrow. I mean, they do not have a good, I would say,
Not a good match.
not a good street profile, at least, as far as the street face is concerned. You know, and we had a discussion in the office at one point in time, before they amended the code in 2004, which was before my time here. The only thing that this body looked at were changes that were visible from the right-of-way. And then it became any exterior change to a property, and I don't know why, or where that came about, but you all have shown some latitude in cases for rear elevations, certainly on some stylistic selections.
Well, I'm certainly more interested in what's seen from the public way than what's not seen from the public way. There's more latitude there. Is there anyone from the audience to comment on this project?
Darby.
Not Darby.
We're going to give you your own microphone soon so that you can just comment from your seat.
Okay, I'm a little confused. When you're talking about taking the back windows and putting them on the front, are you just talking about those 2 front windows, or are you talking about the 2 that are also on the sides?
Six.
So it'd be
Six is
6.
All the front 6 will still be the 6 and 6.
Okay. I mean, we are definitely would like for the front 6 to be replaced with original windows from the back. You know, I don't particularly think that these 1/1 vinyl windows are good even in the back, but I mean, you won't be able to see them. I don't know, Southern Sash has come before with other kind of windows that y'all have been approved, and I don't know if Window World has windows like that y'all have approved to use those for the back or not.
I don't think we've ever gotten a window from them
We have not, and apparently they've only started pulling building permits in the last couple of years. And I know previous to that, we had an issue in the Garden District where they told a property owner they had a special arrangement with the city and didn't need a permit. So she was angry with us for making her replace her windows.
So Window World lied so they could get business and not have to pay for building permits?
I cannot speak to their motivations.
I'll say it out loud. It sounds like they lied so they didn't have to
Well,
building permits and they wanted to make money.
In this case, Window World did what they were supposed to do. They submitted for a building permit and it was given to them. Now, it was given to them without my approval, which should not have happened. But they send them in batches and not individually, so it got...
Well, I think it goes back to what I said initially. This is, somebody somewhere should have, I guess, notified Ms. Carter that, you know, you needed approval from this board, but apparently Window World got the building permit and then they're off to the races. So...
Until I show up with my ticket book and tell them to stop.
Stop.
Has Window World, I'm going to ask how these windows were changed out. It wasn't the full-blown window unit, was it? Or you just got sash replacement?
No, it's just the window.
So it's
the
a,
wood
I think
is
it's called a
still
sash
surrounding
replacement.
the window, right? It still looks that way. And the windows, and we save the windows so that we can put the windows in the front back in if we need to. I think the windows in the back are in better shape. They aren't racking quite as much. So they aren't cracking really much at all.
So you do still have the 6 that were taken out?
What's that?
You still have the 6 that were taken out?
I do. Actually, 5 only were taken out. So, and I still have those.
Okay.
So your thought
So
is
they
to
can go
take the
back.
sash replacement and put them in the back and then bring the old ones to the front. Has Window World talked about working with you to a more correct design of sash
They
replacement?
haven't, because I wanted to come in front of you guys first, but I've also talked to Brian Aspinwall and and I told him I was going to contact him as soon. I work out of town a lot, so I just have to depend on that. Anyway, I told him I would be contacting him. I know he's come in front of this board before, so I'm pretty sure you know his name. Contact him right after and let him know so that we could start figuring out, because I'm guessing Window World's just going to move them wherever I want them, and then I'm going to have to get Bryant to come in and put them in, and I'd really rather him do it because I know he's going to do it right for the neighbor. I mean, his work is good.
Is that John's son, John Aspinwall's son?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. John's done a lot of work.
It doesn't help that the situation where we have these windows, you're close to the street, you're in a row of kind of little Cape Cod cottages right there that people are accustomed to looking at together. So if you're going to have this kind of change in a building, this is the worst place to have it. I think that I know that you'd love to leave the vinyl windows in the front, but I think that my opinion would be that the original windows need to come back to the front.
Okay.
And you're right, the back ones are probably in better condition because that's an eastern exposure, where these windows have gotten the western sun for
all day,
80 or 100 years.
Right.
Yeah. You want to make a motion? Any other discussion?
No, I mean, I agree. I think the 6/6s are definitely make a difference in the character and the look of the house versus those 1/1s. And thanks to Christy and her window repair workshop, I know there are individuals in the city that do a great job of repairing those old windows. So,
and I don't think anybody has any problem with you replacing that kind of made-up Palladian window
up top.
Right.
Yeah, I think the one that'll look actually pretty good.
For future reference, I think Christy has a list of windows that have been recommended for replacement, so you don't have to use old windows all the time. And there's certain windows we've approved for sashes and things, brands?
There are.
Okay.
If I have to replace the front ones, then I'll make sure to go to you.
Well,
and then we have to come in front of this, right?
If you go back with the old sashes, you do not have to come back.
Right,
Because
okay.
that would be a restoration of the original
just
feature.
put the old ones
Yeah,
back in right
so
now.
no, there wouldn't be any additional review with that.
Okay.
One consideration, if you know, going for the double paned, is looking at an interior storm window that you could put on the inside of the glass to protect that window that might prevent your dog from going through it as well.
Those are Lexan usually. You can get them, you put up on magnets or
Yeah, or
they
you
even
can,
make a Velcro.
yeah, you can make, yeah,
Oh,
and they just
okay.
kind of pop in, but it might provide you with somewhat of a buffer
Right.
between your dog and the window.
Because my husband can't leave the house. We can't leave the house. No one can leave the house when my dog is there. Someone always has to be there when my dog is there at this point.
So,
Which
so
is-
the old
which
windows
is
with
kind of crazy.
the old
with the
windows
old
with an
windows.
interior storm may be something that would help you
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm waiting for a motion.
Well, I was going to say, back to the request. I mean, given that there was obviously some miscommunication, foul up, snafu, whatever, I move that we approve Ms. Carter permission to move the windows from the back to the front and put the vinyl in the back where it cannot be seen. And I'm doing this only because apparently there was some mess up on the city's part issuing the permit. And I'm sure who are these folks, Vinyl World or Window World, didn't ask a whole lot of questions anyway because they wanted the money. Yeah, I said it again. And that's okay. So that's my motion.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Renee Vainstein.
Good evening. My name's Rennie Vainstein, and I'm here on behalf of my client, Kate Easter, over there. Originally, we came with a proposal to rehabilitate an existing outbuilding on their property in the backyard to become a library living space. But after we submitted our proposal, we met with a home builder who's done a lot of historic renovations and a lot of work in the Cloverdale area. And after looking at the building, he said there would really be no feasible way to actually rehabilitate the building without completely taking it down in the process. And we were planning to remove all of the existing siding and scrape it and turn it over and reuse it as interior paneling for the building anyway. So the only thing that would have been left standing would have been the rotting frame structure. And we would like to propose taking the, from the foundation up only, we wouldn't disturb the foundation of the building, taking the foundation up, down, which most of it was going to be replaced anyway with new materials to match the existing materials. And the building would be constructed exactly as drawn in the submitted drawings. There's no change to anything of that. All of the windows are reclaimed, so they would be historic windows, single putty glazed windows that match the existing windows in the main house and match the construction of the existing windows that are in the building now. The door would be a new door, but it would replicate the existing trim pattern that's on the door now. The siding would go back exactly as you see, but it would again be new wood siding. New shingles would go on, but they would match the existing shingles to the house so that the house, the main house and the new structure would both have the same roof and the same detailing.
So we are basically requesting permission to take this down, but to rebuild it exactly as drawn and with the exact materials and detailing that would match what's there.
Thank you.
Same footprint. I mean, you're not going to increase any
No,
square footage or anything.
No, we're not. This
Take
is
out
same
the old,
footprint.
put in the new.
Same dimensions on the building as existing.
I like it. Looks good. Looks very nice. It's my opinion.
I think it's a nice addition to the house and certainly consistent with the property, in my opinion. Any comments from the audience? Charlie is not here tonight.
Charlie's not here tonight.
I guess they're depending on you, John.
Well, I can't say for the Cloverdale Idlewild Association, but as for me, on this board member, I move that we approve the petitioner's request as submitted.
All right.
Second. As presented?
As presented.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
I need to know, when should I say as presented or as submitted, or
Well,
how
as
about just
presented because, because as they submitted it, it was to rehab the existing building. But as it's being presented, it's to remove the existing building and replace it. So that was not what was initially submitted. So if there's any deviation from the plan, the agenda write-up, or anything that they have added or subtracted in the course of their presentation, it should be as presented.
Can I say just as presented every time and forget as submitted? Or
You sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to scratch out submitted.
Oh, did we vote? Yeah,
Did we vote?
Yeah,
You voted?
Yeah, we
Yes.
voted.
we voted.
I voted for something.
All right, Jane Albright, 965 Cloverdale Road.
I'm Jane Albright, excuse me, I'm hoarse. I'm Jane Albright. I'd like to propose some alterations to my front porch. The reason, besides being able to utilize the porch in the spring and summer when the western sun is beating down on us, there have been some security issues for me. I live alone, and I'm in the entertainment district, which is a good thing, but I think sometimes people don't realize that I'm a private resident. So we thought this plan, my architect Andy Smith has drawn me. I think you've seen it. We hope you'll find it tasteful. I plan to keep the shutters bifolded back against the column so that I don't lose any light into my room, into my home. You can tell from the photograph that the 3 windows on my porch are, that's my main living area. So when people approach the porch, but anyway, we like the idea of the Charleston look with a true front door at the top of my steps to the right that you really can't see in the photograph, but you can see in the second picture of the side view. So I'm not sure exactly what else you need from me, other than I'd like to answer whatever questions you have. The materials will be cedar. It'll all be very tastefully done, we hope. Well, we certainly plan for it to be. There will be no color change on the outside. The shutters will be, it'll be a tone on tone, much less like we have now. The window trim is a little bit darker than the existing, and we may need to tweak it depending on the light that hits the shutters versus the way it hits the windows now, but it'll be basically a tone on tone just as we have it now. Any questions that I can answer? I plan to keep the shutters open in the day, as I said. They each bifold. You know, it's just, the pictures just show it coming out like this, but each side of the shutter will be a bifold that will fold flat. And the 36-inch stationary railing, the louvers will be operational to, anyway, we want it to be nice, and we hope you all approve. Any questions that you have for me?
My understanding would be that the construction of this new shutter wall would occur behind the columns, so that the columns are...
No, I don't think so. I haven't seen the full, I think it will be more like, as I understand it, and Katie may understand, to the right, they'll just be right in the center of the side of the columns. I mean, it won't really, you'll still get the look of the column completely. They'll look,
I was going to say, you're not covering the columns.
No. They're just attaching to the side of the columns. And in my proposal, we specified that if we square up
Square 'em
the
up.
columns and clad them in, appropriate material so that they will be squared up. Right now they're rounded. It has been suggested to me several times over the years that the squared columns of equal dimensions all the way up would be more appropriate for the home anyway, but I proposed that once before, but it was an informal proposal and I have not proceeded with it until now. But my understanding is there will still be actually light and air passing between the edge of the shutter and the column itself. They will just be attachments to have it secure, but there will be no covering up of the columns. There will just be the shutters attached to the side of the columns.
In general, things that the board have approved before the construction has taken place on the back side of the columns, like for screening or anything like that, so that the columns show up completely rather than putting it in between the columns. That's
Oh, yeah, I'm not
Other board-
familiar with that particular aspect of the plan. If that's something that's required, I'm sure that, Andy, we can draw those plans if we need to resubmit them, whatever. I would like to have approval with whatever contingencies you would like. My contractors will be ready to start at the end of the month, and I really hate to lose another month, but rather than have to resubmit. But if there's any specifications that you guys need to make as part of the contingency of the approval, just, I'm sure we'll do whatever.
Any more comments from the board?
I do, just for clarification. You said there'll be metal louvers beneath the shutters?
No, there won't be any metal. Is that what you said?
What kind of, you said
It'll all be
louvers?
cedar. All of the material used will be cedar.
For the louvers at the bottom as well?
Oh, yes. It'll all be the same material.
Okay. But you said those louvers would be operational?
Operational, that's exactly
But
right.
they'll be cedar and operational?
I'm sorry?
Cedar and operational?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. We won't, no problem there at all, for sure.
Will the bottom panels be operational as well, or just the upper panels?
No, the bottom will be operational because we want the air to flow. So the railing will be stationary. The 36-inch sections will be stationary all the way, But yes, they will be operational. The louvers will be.
Ms. Forrester, does the neighborhood have comments? All right.
The only thing I would suggest, ma'am, is I don't see a ceiling fan out there, and I know sometimes I sit on my front porch a lot without a ceiling fan. It can get mighty warm out there. That's not something you need our permission for. I'm just saying you're not going to have heating or cooling in there.
Well, we'll have a ceiling fan, but here's the thing. The only time we will ever close them in the daytime is if when we sit out there, or I live alone, but if I have friends, we're on the porch. When we try to do it, I have had a single little shutter that's really heavy. It was also cedar, a trifold, and we would drag it out there and put it just right where the sun comes in. We don't have any desire to close it off at all during the day, but we would be able to move just one part of one shutter so that we can sit in two chairs, and not, so we're not going to ever be closing it all. But I do understand what you're saying. I think that's a well taken point. So,
like I said, I just sit on my porch a lot, and in June, July, and August.
yeah, we won't be closing much.
You might want a little air stir, and it looks nice. I like it.
And the doors will always remain open. All of it will be open unless we need to close a section of it to block out the sun, and then after dark, I plan to close them and latch them unless I'm expecting guests. So that's my plan.
We ready for a motion?
We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve as presented.
Second.
See, I've learned.
All in favor?
I learned something tonight.
Opposed? All right.
Thank
It's
you
gonna
very
look
much.
great.
Thank you very much.
And you don't have to live there to wake up in the morning and find people on your front porch.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. John?
Oh.
Two.
I'd already set my book.
What's up, Mike?
I think you got just.
No, that's it. Just John.
Did number one show up?
Do we have a Darrow Castillo? Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm John Hayden. I live at 3042 Maston Lane, and I would like approval to put in a privacy fence in my entire backyard. My wife, who I love, has been asking me for several years to put in a privacy fence, and in the last year or so, she's been a little more adamant about it. So, if you look at page 2C, it kind of gives you an overview. There are 4 different fences in my backyard right now. One is wooden privacy fence. It's been there more than 20 years, which is when I bought the house. There's a little bit of nice wrought iron. In the back is what I call hog wire or pig wire. And then on the south side is chain link fence. My proposal or request is to remove the old privacy fence and replace it. We're not gonna, the wrought iron fence is in the neighbor's yard, so we're just gonna put the privacy fence in front of it. We're gonna leave the pig iron or pig wire fence because the people from A Plus Fencing showed me and pointed out that thing has been there at least 20 years when I moved in the house, and it acts kind of like a retaining wall. And dirt, leaves, limbs, and other things it's now up to almost a foot. So, if I were to take that fence out, it would go into my neighbor, Mr. Roberts' yard, and he would not like that. So I'm just gonna put the fence smooth side up against it. The chain link fence is gonna be removed and gonna be, again, smooth side will face the neighbor's house, which is also Mr. Roberts. He owns both properties at the back of the house, which is the west side, and owns the property on the corner there, which is the south side. And he has no problem doing this. I didn't have a chance to talk with the other neighbor, but I'm just replacing one privacy fence with a new privacy fence, and I really don't see how he can complain, although you never know. So that is
Had
my...
a sign in their yard. If they had a question, they could have come to ask.
That sign's been in front of the yard for all of 2 weeks, so they haven't asked a question, so I assume they're okay with it. And that is my request. Thank you.
John, is this going to adversely affect the popcorn trees in your backyard?
If there were a popcorn tree in the back, I don't even know if I'd ask permission anymore. I would just take it down. Unfortunately, there are no popcorn. There is a tree. One of the photographs shows there's actually 2 smaller trees. One is on Mr. Roberts' side of the chain link fence. One's coming up on my side of the chain link fence. So I asked him if he had a problem if I took mine down. He said, "No, you're going to put up a new fence? Go right ahead." So no problem with that. And there will be it'll be pressure treated, probably dog-eared wood, 6 feet high. It will be a double door in the front, so can get equipment back in there to cut and things like that. Probably a bolt to a bolt lock instead of because I think those are easier.
So the existing gate is coming down and you're putting a new one up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I want take all the chain link down. Paid a little extra just to, I think it would just be a cleaner look, not to have, against the pig wire is all the way in the back and nobody's really going to see it. But over there on the side yard, it would just look a lot better if, rather than push it up against the chain link, just have them take that out. And
I don't know, this gate has a nice patina to me. It has a really good aged look, Mr. Hayden.
Well, it does, and if you'd like to try to salvage it, I'll be happy to keep it for you. And you could put it up in that shed in the back. That might be next year's request, because it's seen better days. But for now, my request is simply to remove the old and put in the new privacy fence.
Any further comments or questions from the board? Does anyone from the audience have a comment or question?
Charlie's not here.
Darby? It's just not Darby's area.
The CIA didn't show up.
Yeah. All right, may I have a motion on this project then? John, you cannot make your own motion.
How about a motion as, is it presented or?
Presented, as presented.
Motion as presented.
All right.
Oh, my God.
All in favor?
Who was the second?
Oh,
Oh,
second.
second, I'm sorry. Jeremy seconded.
Quick on the
Second.
draw.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, did the first person?
I abstain.
Did Daniel Castillo come in? No. All right. The minutes were mailed out. I know you want to go, but may I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Move to approve as written.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Same sign?
Madam
All
Chair,
right. Yes.
one comment. Hillary Morgan did arrive. She just didn't come up and join us. So
Come say hello.
Hi.
Hello. We don't bite.
We introduced you at the beginning of the meeting.
Just watching the fun? This was a calm one.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to your full participation at the next meeting.
I look forward to it.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Adjourned.